If you have chosen to watch this video, you know exactly why you're here. You are a beginner YouTube creator, probably choosing your first camera for making both videos and photos, and you want it to be cheap yet have decent quality and a satisfying set of features. So let me not waste your time and jump right into it. Hi, my name is Roman and this is Movavi Vlog, your go-to channel for making great videos. And today I've prepared for you guys my top 3 list of best budget cameras in 2020 for beginners. I did not just pick the cheapest cameras I could find, I also didn't simply take the newest 2020 versions of well-known makes of affordable cameras. Instead, I read tons of reviews, watched dozens of videos, revised my own experience, and came up with my top 3 list. It took me a while, but I did it for you guys, so you won't have to spend your time. Just watch this video till the very end. All the 3 cameras I've picked for you are user-friendly, light and convenient, just perfect to start with, have great sets of features that are relevant for today, and they're under $650. So let's do it, shall we? But before we do, please spend a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. I appreciate that. The first camera we'll be looking at today is the oldest house Sony A6000. Yes, this is a 6-year-old camera by now, but it's shockingly relevant today in 2020, and sometimes even can leave behind other Sony cameras of a similar price that came after the A6000. Let me break it down for you guys. I start with the specs. It has a 24-megapixel CMOS APS-C size sensor. Yes, it's not a full frame, but guess what? It still does pretty well at high ISOs. Up to 12,800, it is still very clean and usable for video, and up to ISO 5000, you'll be okay with photos. A6000 has the very good autofocus system that Sony cameras are known for. Not the latest AFs that you can get from the latest Sony cameras, but after 6 years, it's still impressive. It keeps tracking your subject even when you're shooting 11 pics per second. What a gear for a beginner photographer. Let's talk about low light. As I said, this thing is quite decent up to ISO 12,800 when it comes to video, but the camera looks best at 3200 or 6400 ISO at low light conditions. Speaking about photos, you can go up to 10,000 ISO and try astrophotography. Let's not forget about the design and appearance. Sony A6000 is small, lightweight, and yet durable. After 6 years on the market, you can rely on so many users' experiences and be sure this camera is going to last. The button layout is worth mentioning too. All the buttons are just where they need to be. For you as a beginner, it will make a learning curve easier. Sony A6000 is a fantastic photo camera for travelers. It's super tiny and light, even smaller than my iPhone X in some dimension. It's very durable, it does have a 24-megapixel sensor. You can start with a kit lens as a beginner and get a ton of interchangeable lenses when you improve your skills and increase your gear budget eventually. And with the speed of 11 pictures per second, wow, this thing is a photo machine gun. Another great thing about this camera is the built-in flash. This little guy is a lifesaver, especially if you're gonna use it for travel photography. You're not gonna know what lighting conditions you'll be in, and the Sony camera flash is damn bright. The video specs aren't impressive, but still good. The camera gives you 1080p videos up to 60 frames per second at a very high megabit rate, 50 megabits per second. Sorry guys, no 4K. And A6000 does not have any picture profiles, no S-Log, no Cinema 1, no Cinema 2, only neutral profile, but due to the high megabit rate, you can still color grade your videos pretty well if you know how to do it properly. And believe me, for most YouTube genres, full HD videos shot at 60 FPS would be more than enough. This camera does not have a built-in stabilization like modern Sony cameras do, but you can attach this to a Sony stabilized lens where the stabilization is built into the lens. But since you're saving so much money on this camera, you can also buy a $300 gimbal and you'll get fantastic stabilization, even better from any Sony camera with built-in stabilization. Another huge drawback for video creators is the audio. Well, that really breaks my heart, folks. No external mic input. And the built-in mic is a disaster in the case of Sony A6000. If you're planning to vlog, consider buying a recorder and be ready to sync it with the video at the editing stage. I hate to say it, but the battery life is not going to impress you. These batteries do not last. So if you're planning to travel with this camera or do some professional shooting, make sure to buy and charge some extra batteries. The good news is these babies are super cheap. You can get a 2 extra batteries pack for like $15 or $20. So being a great, just a fantastic choice for a beginner photographer with a low budget, Sony A6000 has 3 serious cons for a YouTube video creator. No 4K, no built-in stabilization, and no external mic input. Yet, even the drawbacks should not immediately stop you from choosing this camera for making videos. As I said, 1080p still is the most common option in 2020, and you can invest in a gimbal, professional lenses, and an external audio recorder instead of putting all your money on a more expensive camera. In 2020, Sony A6000 cost about $650, or even less if you get it at the right place or time. So one of the biggest pros for this camera would be the value. There are 5 Sony APS-C cameras out there that have been released after the A6000, and that has driven the price of it like crazy. You can even get a used one with a kit lens for less than $400. The choice of camera of course affects the quality of the picture, but in video production, editing is also essential. Movavi Video Editor Plus can give you all the tools you need to create your first videos. The interface is intuitive, the effects are applied simply, so you don't have to waste your time on instructions just to start editing with this program. The Movavi Vlog team gives you a Vlog20 promo code of a 20% discount on Movavi Video Editor Plus and a stylish abstract shapes effects set. The promo code expires on October 7th, so if you're interested in such an offer, why wouldn't you, right? Follow the link below. Moving on, I just cannot avoid Canon on my list, so no surprises here. This is Canon M50, a mirrorless camera by Canon. The first thing I really like about this camera is its small size, especially if you have used the DSLRs by Canon before. First, you take the M50 to your hand, you're gonna be shocked. Inside the camera, there is a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor. It has 143 autofocus points and also has tracking. I'm talking about the Canon's legendary dual pixel autofocus. Also, the camera has digital image stabilization, definitely worse than IBIS, but still works pretty well if you're just doing some standing still handheld filming. At 1080p, you can shoot 60 frames per second and the picture quality is really nice. And at 720p, you can even get 120 FPS and then do a 4x slow motion. The camera has the EF-M mount, which in a way limits you since the choice of EF-M lenses on the market isn't too wide. But you can purchase an adapter and consider a huge variety of the Canon EF lenses. This little thing has a couple of really good video features you'll definitely like to check out. For me, there are actually 4 features that should draw your attention as a video creator. It's got 4K. Happy 4K lovers, now you can have the quality 4 times higher than Full HD even with such a cheap yet decent quality camera. But since the sensor of the M50 is cropped, yes, it's not a full-frame camera, you might get not exactly the 4K you would think of first. I mean, the image will be cropped. The Canon M50 also got a fully articulated flip-out screen. This is super cool, especially if you're going to be filming yourself. When recording a vlog, it's so useful. It means you don't have to look for an assistant, you always can check the frame, make sure the camera is recording, you're in focus and in frame. It saves tons of time. The dual pixel autofocus of the Canon M50 is fantastic. You can rely on it safely when you're recording your vlog at home, and when you're moving with a camera, you don't have to worry much about keeping objects in focus wherever you point it. But one important thing about the AF here is when you're shooting in 4K, you're not going to have awesome dual pixel autofocus, only a kind of a hybrid AF, which is okay, but not that great. Please keep that in mind. Other than that, it has an external mic input, which is quite nice. As a vlogger, you don't have to bother buying an audio recorder and sync the audio with the video at the editing stage. With Canon M50, you can easily record great audio with an external mic. You can get Canon M50 at a similar price as Sony A6000, under $650. But since it already has a mic input, a fully articulated flip-out screen, and a great digital image stabilization, while the Sony has none of that, I highly recommend you consider the Canon if you're more interested in making videos. But let's take a close look at our third horse in that race. This little camera is also not the newest, but in 2020 it still holds its name as a beast of budget hybrid cameras for beginner creators. Panasonic Lumix GX80. This thing is capable of shooting 4K at 30 FPS and Full HD at 60 frames per second. It has great in-body stabilization, the GX80 is super light and small, it's great for beginner photography and as a second video camera and sometimes even the first video camera. The camera uses a 16 megapixels Micro Four Thirds sensor. I can feel your doubts, but don't say no to this camera right away. Many YouTube creators find 16 megapixels satisfactory for their uses. Thanks to the small size of the sensor, it is able to move around, which gives the GX80 impressive IBIS. The camera is able to shoot smooth 24 FPS 4K videos without a huge image crop, which makes this camera the most advanced and usable in my list in terms of 4K. The GX80 has amazing in-body stabilization. Both the IBIS and the compact size of the Panasonic makes it a good vlogging camera. But what drives me slightly crazy as a vlogger is that the GX80, like the Sony A6000, misses an external mic input. This again means buying an external recorder and synchronizing footage with audio if you want to vlog with it. And there's no flip-out screen, which does not kill the idea of using the GX80 as a vlogging camera, but highlights its obvious disadvantage. The battery life is decent, by the way. You can get around for an hour or two with one battery. I also cannot praise its autofocus comparing to the Sony and the Canon. I mean, in the GX80, the AF for photography is fine, but as for video, it's not usable if you're moving around with the camera or filming moving objects. It's simply too slow to track subjects. Okay, you've probably counted more than one drawback of this camera by now, comparing to its two rivals. But let me tell you about two things that make me fall in love with that camera irrationally and will potentially make you go for it. The first one is the design. Oh my god, the Panasonic is so stylish, especially with this leather half-camera case. It's pure joy to carry this camera around and make some cool shots and film. You're gonna love it. The second one is the price. You can easily get the Panasonic GX80 for less than $500, which is cheaper than both Sony A6000 and Canon M50. Thank you so much for watching to this point, guys. I will be super happy if my video is useful for you. And if it is, the best way for me to see it is to see your likes and comments below this video. And your subscriptions too. My name is Roman, this is Movavi Vlog. We'll meet again very soon.